Waking up at 35 and realizing you have nothing to show for the most important decade of your life. That feeling, the crushing panic of wasted potential, is the real cost of believing your 20s are a throwaway decade. Your brain is lying to you about time. It's selling you the comfortable fiction that your 20s and 30s are an endless runway, that you have plenty of time to figure things out later. But here's what psychologists discovered. The most valuable asset you could possibly build right now has nothing to do with your bank account or your job title. In fact, most people are building the wrong thing entirely. I'm going to show you what it actually is and why it matters more than anything else. It's your identity capital, the unique combination of skills, experiences, and connections that make you who you are. While everyone else is chasing temporary validation, you need to be building something irreplaceable. I'm going to show you 3 psychological rules that transform potential into permanent advantage, starting with where true value actually comes from. Rule 1. Accumulate identity capital. Identity capital is everything you bring to the table that can't be easily replicated. It's not just your degree or job history. It's the specific problems you've solved, the networks you've built, the unconventional skills you've mastered. Most people treat their 20s as exploration time, but here's the catch. Exploration that doesn't build capital is just procrastination in disguise. The compound interest of personal development works like this. Every intentional investment in yourself pays dividends for decades. But here's what most people get wrong. They think the type of job matters. They think prestige matters. They think the paycheck matters. But there's one thing that matters infinitely more, and it's what separates people who compound their success from people who stay stuck. That cross-country job? It's not just a job, it's proof you can adapt to new environments. That startup idea you're considering? Even if it fails, it becomes evidence you can build something from nothing. The reality: identity capital begets more capital. Consider Sarah, who took a seemingly odd job managing social media for a small tech startup instead of a corporate marketing role. That experience taught her how to analyze user data and build communities from scratch. 2 years later, that specific skill set landed her a role at a major platform company, solving growth problems that corporate marketers couldn't touch. The startup experience became her competitive advantage, proof that capital compounds. Opportunities attract better opportunities. Interesting problems find capable solvers. Here's how to implement this today. Stop asking, "What job should I take?" and start asking, "What capital will this give me?" Choose roles that develop huge skills. Pursue projects that force growth. Make every professional move an intentional investment in the person you're becoming. Because in 5 years, you won't be judged by your job title. You'll be valued for what you can actually do. If you're already thinking about what capital you need to build, drop a comment right now. What's one skill or experience you've been putting off that you know would change your trajectory? This is where the real work starts, not in watching videos, but in naming what you're actually going to do. But holding valuable capital is useless if you don't know how to trade it. There's a hidden asset that most people completely ignore, something that determines whether your skills and experience ever actually lead to opportunities. It's not your resume. It's not your credentials. It's something most people actively avoid, thinking it's shallow or transactional. But the science shows it's the single biggest predictor of career breakthroughs. Here's what it is, and why you've been doing it wrong. Rule 2. Leverage weak ties. Your inner circle, while providing emotional support, creates an echo chamber that limits your growth. Those close friends who think like you and validate your decisions reinforce the same patterns. But breakthrough opportunities come from weak ties, acquaintances and friends of friends who offer new information and perspectives. The science is clear. Strong ties give comfort, but weak ties give growth. Staying confined to this echo chamber means missing out on new opportunities, diverse perspectives, and the accelerated trajectory that comes from external inputs. But that former colleague's cousin? That person you met at a conference 6 months ago? They exist in completely different networks with completely different opportunities. This isn't just networking theory. It's how information actually spreads through society. Half of all jobs are never publicly posted. They're filled through referrals and connections. The hidden job market isn't accessed by submitting more applications. It's unlocked by having more weak ties. Here's how it actually works. Mark met someone briefly at a conference who worked in renewable energy. 6 months later, that person mentioned an unposted operations role to a mutual friend. The mutual friend remembered Mark's interest in sustainability and passed along the tip. One coffee meeting led to an interview for a position that never appeared on any job board. That's the weak tie effect in action. Information flowing through networks you're not directly connected to. The implementation is straightforward, but uncomfortable. You need to strategically build relationships outside your comfort zone. Not random networking, but strategic relationship building with people who are different from you. Attend events where you're the least knowledgeable person in the room. Reach out to that person whose career path intrigues you. The goal isn't to collect business cards. It's to build bridges to worlds you don't currently inhabit. Most people make the mistake of thinking networking is transactional. It's not. It's about creating a web of relationships where value flows in all directions. When you help someone in your weak tie network, you're not just being nice. You're strengthening a connection that might bring unexpected opportunities years later. The results are exponential. Each new weak tie doesn't just represent one person. It represents access to their entire network, their unique perspective, their unseen opportunities. This is how you transform a limited circle into an expanding universe of possibilities. But building an amazing career network is impossible to sustain if your home life is a constant, draining distraction. That's why the third rule is the true foundation of your future. Rule 3. Consciously choose your family. Here's the myth that's costing people their future. You can't pick your family. It's only half true. Yes, you're born into one family, but you build another through intentional partnership. The most important decision of your 20s isn't where you work. It's who you build your life with. This choice determines your support system, your risk-taking capacity, and your entire trajectory, affecting everything from career opportunities to personal growth. Most people treat relationships like musical chairs, running around having fun until the music stops around 30 and grabbing whoever's closest. That's not choosing, that's settling under pressure. The cost of this approach is staggering. Take Alex, who stayed with a partner who constantly criticized their career ambitions and preferred comfortable stability over growth. 5 years later, Alex had missed key opportunities to avoid conflict and found themselves professionally stagnant. Contrast this with Jamie, who ended a good but limiting relationship early because their visions for life were fundamentally incompatible. That difficult choice freed Jamie to eventually build with someone who actively supported their ambitions, turning their partnership into a strategic advantage rather than a compromise. The cost of default relationships is staggering. Being with someone who doesn't support your growth, who limits your potential, who embodies the life you're trying to escape, that's not just bad romance. It's actively working against your future self. Your partner should be your strategic ally in building the life you want, not an obstacle you have to work around. This isn't about finding perfection. It's about finding alignment with your values, your ambitions, your vision for what matters. Implementation looks like being as conscious in your relationship selection as you are with career choices. It means having uncomfortable conversations early about deal breakers, values, and non-negotiables. Ask yourself, is this person an obstacle I have to work around, or an ally building the life with me? It means not wasting years with someone who's fundamentally wrong for the life you want to build. The best time to work on your marriage is before you have one, by carefully selecting someone who shares your definition of success, growth, and partnership. This conscious selection creates a foundation that accelerates your growth rather than complicating it. The compound effect. Here's what happens when you apply all 3 rules together. It's not just that your career gets better. It's not just that your relationships improve. Something else happens. Something that psychologists call a flywheel effect. Once it starts, it becomes almost impossible to stop. Your growing skills attract better opportunities. Your expanding network opens doors you never knew existed. Your chosen family provides the stability to take bigger risks. And each of these elements makes the others stronger. By 30, you're not just ahead, you're in a completely different league. Here's how it works. Identity capital makes you valuable. Weak ties make you connected. Conscious relationships make you supported. Combined, they create a flywheel effect where each element reinforces the others. Your growing skills attract better opportunities through your expanding network, and your chosen family provides the stability to take strategic risks. The neuroscience behind this is crucial. Your 20s and 30s represent the last great period of brain plasticity. Your personality changes more during this window than any other time in life. The neural pathways you're building now become the default settings for your adulthood. Think about Michael, who was naturally introverted but deliberately took roles requiring public speaking and networking throughout his 20s. Initially exhausting, these activities gradually rewired his brain's default responses. By 30, seeking new connections wasn't a struggle. It had become his natural mode of operation. His personality hadn't just adapted, it had fundamentally changed through consistent, intentional practice. This isn't just about career success, it's about wiring your brain for the life you want. The cost of waiting is exponential. Every year you delay building identity capital, your potential compounds slower. Every month you stay in limiting relationships, you miss opportunities for growth. Every weak tie you neglect represents doors that never open. But the power of starting now is equally exponential. One intentional choice today can alter your trajectory for decades. One conversation with the right person can unlock possibilities you never imagined. One skill mastered can become the foundation of your entire career. Conclusion: build your irreplaceable life. So here's your takeaway. Identity capital, weak ties, conscious relationships. These aren't separate strategies. They're the three pillars of building a life that can't be replaced by anyone else. The emergency contact blank doesn't have to remain empty. Your value doesn't have to be determined by default choices. You're building your life right now, whether you're intentional about it or not. This isn't theoretical. Emma applied all three rules simultaneously. She took a job that built specific capital in event planning, leveraged a weak tie to get that opportunity, and consciously chose a partner who supported her new direction. Within 2 years, she'd transformed from waiting tables with no direction to building a career and relationship that accelerated each other. Her choices created a flywheel effect that made her progress irreversible. Your action step is simple, but non-negotiable. Pick one of these rules to implement this week. Maybe it's reaching out to 3 weak ties you've neglected. Maybe it's auditing your relationship against your long-term goals. This week, audit your time. What is one intentional investment you can make today to avoid that future panic at 35? Test one strategy, refine it, and make it yours. Here's what separates people who watch this and forget it from people who actually change their lives. They share their commitment in the comments. Right now, tell me, which rule are you implementing this week? And what's one specific action you're taking in the next 48 hours? Don't just think about it, write it down here. Your comment holds you accountable, and it shows others in this community that change is possible. This is how we build together. Your 20s and 30s aren't practice rounds, they're the main event. The choices you make now define the life you'll have later. Stop waiting for someday. Build your irreplaceable life today. This framework works for your 20s, but if you're in your 30s, the rules shift, the stakes get higher, and the window gets smaller. If you're in your 40s, there's a completely different playbook. Subscribe so you don't miss the next video in this series. And if you found this valuable, hit like. It helps this message reach more people who need to hear it right now.